Councilwoman Paulette Shavers.
Let us stand. Lord, grant counsel with the wisdom to make wise decisions that are most beneficial for the people of Statesboro and all that dwell within. And grant the people of Statesboro with the spirit of gratitude as we all join together to make this land a better place for all of us to dwell. In your name, Jesus, I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll move down to agenda item 3, recognition and public presentations. Leah, do we have any?
No, Mayor.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, do we have any public comments?
No, Mayor.
Okay. All right, we'll move down to agenda item 5, which is a consideration of a motion to approve the consent agenda, which is the approval of minutes for our February the 18th work session and February the 18th council minutes, as well as a consideration of a motion to declare vehicles and equipment in public works and engineering and fire department as surplus and approved disposition in accordance to the city's purchasing policy. Is there a motion to approve agenda item 5?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, let it show that agenda item 5 is passed. We'll move down to agenda item 6, which is a consideration of a motion to approve resolution 2020-10, a resolution pledging payment of restricted hotel motel tax proceeds to Statesboro Convention and Visitors Bureau. Before we get into council discussion, we will have a presentation by our Convention and Visitor Bureau friends.
Good morning.
How you doing?
Morning.
Barry Turner, the Vice President of the Board for the CVB. I think all of you had seen our project that we're proposing, the renovation of the warehouse that we have behind our visitor center that we would use for a couple of things. Probably one of the primary goals would be to create a permanent facility for the farmers market, and then we would also be able to use the venue for events and hopefully do some things partnering with hotels that would attract some smaller groups, maybe, or medium-sized groups that would come to town, put some heads in beds at our hotel, but be able to use our event space there. Okay. We own the property there now. We've been working to get the property cleaned out and cleaned up, ready for some renovation. We've got plans in place for that, and we would ask for your support by designating this money that we're talking about with the hotel motel tax for that project. And I'm happy to entertain any questions or provide any additional information that you may need. We do have some renderings of what the project would look like that you can see on the screens, and we would just appreciate your support, but glad to answer any questions that we can. We have several people here from our board and our staff from the visitor center that we can pool together our knowledge to answer anything you may have.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there any discussion by council?
Barry, can I just confirm that we are including the green things that were talked about, and that especially
Yes.
the water refill station?
Yep, we
water bottle
do
refills?
have some initiatives with the project that would, work toward making it a little more green than it might otherwise have been, and that came at the suggestion of Councilmember Barr. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right. Any further discussion by council?
No.
Cindy, does this require a budget amendment?
Yes, we'll be doing a budget amendment for that on the next, we'll put it in the next budget amendment.
And then are there already funds that have been collected under this 8.33% since the shooting range was paid off somewhere last July?
Yes. We have about $80,000 that has been collected since that time.
Is that included in, I don't see that in this resolution.
It's not in the resolution, however, if you approve this action, when we bring forward the budget amendment, we would bring
we would bring what we have on hand forward for you to appropriate that. That would go to the CVB toward this project.
All right, and then I guess the only other question I have is, as the Averitt Center and the DSDA are also funded out of the hotel motel tax, and have they been?
We have had discussions with the DSDA primarily. We've made Averitt Center aware of it, and they've not come back with any concerns.
They're here, do they have any concerns?
So we worked with them.
Any further discussion by council? All right, seeing that there's no further discussion by council, is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, let it show that agenda item 6 has passed. All right, we move down to agenda item 7, which is consideration of a motion to adopt amendment ordinance codification of chapter 2 to include the Statesboro Bullock Beautiful advisory. If we can get some insight on this?
Mayor and members of the council, the Keep Statesboro Bullock Beautiful was actually established in 2016. However, at some point, we made some amendments to our ordinance, and this was inadvertently omitted. And so basically what this is doing is restating the purpose that this committee does exist. And so what we're actually asking you to do is to do some housekeeping to make sure that it's back in the code.
Okay.
And so we recommend it to you.
All right. Any discussion by council? Seeing that there's no discussion by council, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, let it show that agenda item 7 has passed. We'll move down to agenda item 8, which is consideration of a motion to approve a development agreement with the West District Development LLC to use $188,365 in TAD funds for installation of private infrastructure within the development commonly known as the West District within the South Main Tax Allocation District. If we can get some insight on this.
Mayor and members of the council, you set up the, and I guess with the voter approval, the downtown TAD district. And this is actually the first application you've received for the funds that exist. Currently, we have about a little over $400,000 that's available. And so this is the first project that has come through. And it has, the TAD committee has reviewed it and they recommend it to you. Our staff received the application, and we did ask our financial advisor, Davenport, to review the application, and they came back with a positive review of the documentation that was submitted. The city attorney has been working with the attorney from the West Group to develop the agreement that is before you today for the, and so you have to approve the grant application after the TAD committee reviews it. Mm-hmm. And so we recommend to you that you approve the awarding of the $188,365 to the West Group for, I believe what is going to be some underground electrical and some, excuse me, mm-hmm. And it's an outdoor infrastructure area that will be improved next to an event area that they that the building is already there. And so this will complement the development that will occur at the west site. The way this is set up, and I think it's very important for the public to know, these funds do exist. Mm-hmm. However, when we receive an application, what we recommend is we don't just write a check to anyone. Mm-hmm. What we recommend is that they incur the expense and we reimburse them those expenses. In this agreement, we are not recommending any set number of reimbursements. And the example that I use is with the old register TAD, with the Darren Van Tassel project, JGR. We said we would do 2 and we came back and said 3. That project's a lot larger than this project. That was a $4.5 million project. This is a $188,000 project. and the city would be able to reimburse as they incur those expenses. They don't have to spend a certain amount. As they incur those expenses, they can submit the documentation, which should not be as difficult to review. And as soon as we review that documentation, we can reimburse them as long as it's in compliance with the application that they've submitted to us. Mayor and council, we do recommend the approval of the agreement that is before you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Penny. Is there any discussion by council in regards to line item 8?
Penny, if I can clarify, just based off your statement, you're saying that, and just to clarify for the public, we're not writing a check for work that has not been done. You never did have the contract, by the way.
No.
Public service announcement. So we're just as they put in the sidewalk or put in whatever they're putting in, they'll submit.
And we'll reimburse them, yes.
So pay for performance, basically?
Yes.
Okay, good, that's what I just wanted to check. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, not really a question about the development, but while Mr. Whitfield is here, could we just inquire about the timeline and how it's progressing? It all looks great on paper.
Okay.
Could we ask that question?
Mr. Whitfield, if you would give us a point of privilege, please.
Name's Josh Whitfield. The timeline's progressing pretty well. As far as probably 2/3 of what we have presented in this for the TAD application would begin immediately, really in the site work phase. We've got a group that's ready to move on the event space, which is where the water tower is, would be right there. And beside that would be the green event space. That's really kind of going to be the heartbeat and complement of what we're doing to provide the social events, getting the people downtown. And the event space will help, will be beside that.
Trying to get there.
Yeah, he's trying to get there.
But, and the utilities, as far as that timeline goes, we will initiate them immediately. If you drove by our site, we had a telephone pole for about 6 months in the driveway that it took us to get moved. So as far as when those would go underground would be up to them, but we would initiate that process immediately. The only part that would lag a little bit would be the sidewalks that we talked about in the pedestrian zone. That would be pending phase 2 site work, so that would probably be a little bit more down the road. But everything we're talking about would be within the next year or so of happening. So you'd see immediate results, and we're ready to go if it'll stop raining. We'll finish paving what we call phase 1. If you've been out there, you'll see the rock that is down. We're ready to pave that. Our first tenants have moved in. Ranco Group is there. He's leased out 3 of the 4 lofts upstairs, so we now have people living there.
Good.
Wow.
We have an Airbnb there that has been full for half the time it's been available. And we actually have a new group that is coming down that's leasing the space beside him. And then we have interest in 2 other sites to build for. So it took a little bit to get going, but we've gotten through a lot of the process. And to that, I think everybody that's up here has pretty much been there. The staff has really, I mean, everybody's come down and said, how do we support this? And I think this is kind of the next step. It's exciting to see what the Visitors Bureau is doing with the event space behind that. And it's kind of an exciting time to be doing all this downtown.
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Okay. Any further discussion by council? All right, seeing that there's no further discussion by council, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. We'll move down to agenda item 9.
Mayor, I don't mean to jump in late. Could I offer one comment?
Sure, we'll give you that point of privilege.
Thank you. As it relates to the development agreement, item 6.2D establishes the mechanism for reimbursement upon approved requisitions submitted by the developer. As drafted and as presented to council, that item does not include a time frame for reimbursement. In discussion with Mr. Smith and staff and Mr. Penny and the developers, we would request a revision to item 6.2D to establish a 30-day timeline for reimbursement upon approval of a requisition. That is not included in the development agreement that's before you today. The developers believe that's important just to establish some sort of parameters as to how these requisitions will be paid as they come in. It's not intended to be any sort of rigorous requirement on the city or anything that can't be accomplished. We feel like it's a reasonable time frame for payment upon approval of requisitions. So these are requisitions submitted by the developer that have been approved by the city as legitimate work covered by the TAD application. It's merely that 30-day timeline would be to establish some sort of parameter as to when the developers might expect that reimbursement to come back. I've discussed that with Mr. Boyles, Mr. Smith, Mr. Penny, and I have had a discussion about the reimbursement, but not particularly about that issue. We did want to present that for council's consideration today and would ask for a revision to item 6.2D of the development agreement to insert a requirement that reimbursements be paid back within 30 days from approval of submitted requisitions.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor. Thank you,
All
council.
right, and that,
Staff is
you're
good.
fine, staff is fine with that, and that was gonna be my next question, to make sure staff is fine with that. If it pleases the council, can we amend the approval of line item 8 to include a 30-day timeline for reimbursement, on behalf of the city?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. The amendment has passed for line item 8. We'll move down to agenda item 9, which is consideration of a motion to award a contract to American Signal for the purchase of 3 Advantage S LED portable trailer-mounted message signs per the Houston-Galveston Area Council Person Cooperative Contract in the amount of $40,000. If you'll give us some insight on that.
Mayor and members of the council, these are just simply message boards that will be used by the street division when we have work going on, and you see them all around, and they are part of our capital improvement plan. So we recommend the approval of the purchase of these signs.
Okay. Is there any discussion by council? Seeing that there's no discussion by council, is there a motion to approve line item 9?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Let it show that line item 9 is passed. We move down to agenda item 10. Consideration of a motion to award a contract to Xylem Dewatering Solution Incorporated in the amount of $92,807.82 for 2 NC100 dry prime pumps with funds approved in the 2020 capital improvement budget. Item number WWD-37. If we can have some insight on this line item, please.
Mayor and members of the council, the approval that we're seeking is simply so we can install some backup pumps and generators at the Briarwood lift station and the Mill Creek Recreation Department lift station. It's important to have backup when we have storms and the system goes down. You want to make sure you can still push that sewer, the wastewater through, and so this will help us at those 2 locations. So we recommend the purchase of these 2 backup systems.
Okay. All right. Is there any discussion by council? Seeing that there's no discussion by council, is there a motion to approve line item 10?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll move down to agenda item 11. Consideration of a motion to award a professional services contract to Hussey Gay Bell Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $23,400 for the design and survey services to replace the East Olive Street water main with funds approved as part of the 2020 capital improvement budget. Item number WWD-0166. Can we have some insight on line item 11?
Mayor, members of the council, again, this is just for the design work, for the work in the, I think it's the Olive Street area, and we do recommend it to you. The amount of it is, for this contract, is $23,400. We anticipate that the project itself is going to be about $180,000, and we should be able to cover that. The design work is about $15,700. The variable cost is about $7,700, and we think we may be able to come in under that. So we do recommend the approval of the design contract with Hussey, Gay, and Bell.
Okay. Any discussion by council? Seeing that there's no discussion by council, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, let it show that line item 11 is passed. We'll move down to agenda item 12, consideration of a motion to approve change order number 1 to Institute Forum Technologies, LLC, contract for $101,091.80 with funds approved as part of the 2020 capital improvement budget item WWD-174. Insight, please.
Mayor and members of the council, I think it was last fall you approved a contract with Institute Forum, and basically what this does is this allows us to reline a sewer line. And with wastewater, one of our biggest problems is what we call I&I, and you get rainwater and it fills into the sewer line, and then the waste treatment plants gets overrun with that rainwater. And what this will do will allow us to be able to insert that liner in about 3,000 feet of sewer line. And what we're doing, simply asking you to do is approve the change order to the existing contract in the amount of $101,000 and $101,091.80.
Okay.
And we recommend it to you.
All right, any discussion by council? Seeing that,
Mr. Penny, you mentioned in the packet that we're applying to a CDBG grant. Will this, if we're putting this in, if we're making the adjustment now, if we spend the money, we won't be able to apply that to a future CDBG grant, is that correct?
I'm gonna have to ask Steve to help me with that one.
On this one, utilities weren't included as part of the CDBG match. But because these lines are in poor shape and we had the budgeted already, we went ahead and decided to line them ahead of the project.
Okay. So we won't be able to use this as a future match then?
No.
Thank you.
any further discussion by council? Seeing that there's no further discussion by council, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, let it show that agenda item 12 is passed. We'll move down to agenda item 13, consideration of a motion to award a contract to Sykes Brothers Incorporated for $196,690 for asphalt paving and repairs at the wastewater treatment plant and the Hill Street Utility Complex with funds approved in the 2020 capital improvement budget. Item number WWD-65, WWD-127, and NGD-66. Any insight on this?
Mayor, it's pretty straightforward. We're gonna be doing some paving out of the waste treatment plant. We just need your approval. And the mayor will be following that pavement.
That's right. That's right. We're gonna pave these streets in this city. All right. Any discussion by council? All right. Seeing that there's no discussion, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Let it show that agenda item 13 is passed. We'll move down forward to other business from city council. Do we have any other business from city council? Okay. All right. We will do.
Mayor. And this is something I've been discussing with Mr. Penny and Jason and Marcus privately, but it's something that with all the rain here lately that we need to address systematically. There are a number of ditches, private ponds, drainage culverts, whatever you want to call it, that are either on private property or we don't have the city doesn't have proper easements to address the issues. So, and there is, especially up in districts 1 and 2, there's a systematic series of, again, ditches and ponds and things like that that are not owned by the city. The city doesn't have we have to go jump through hoops to get onto the property, to fix the property. Mayor, in your own neighborhood, there's issues with the city's water being on private property. So I don't know what I'm asking for here necessarily, but we need to make some kind of a step forward to start setting aside some funding to start acquiring these easements, acquiring some property, in order to handle the stormwater. When we passed the stormwater utility 5 years ago, that was one of the long-term goals, was to start purchasing some of this property, and we haven't really done that big time yet. With the budget season coming up, we have to start putting some money aside. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree. It is not unusual for, to the mayor and council, with the storm water utility, with these ponds that are around, in other communities, the city does maintain those because although they may be on private property, the impact tends to be a lot more far-reaching. And however, we have to make sure we have the appropriate resources to be able to make sure that we're able to maintain them on an annual basis, so that when we get all this rain, we don't get those panic calls from folks that because beavers have gone in and built dams and all kinds of things. So that is a conversation that we will need to have in the budget process, how we address that going forward.
Okay.
But I think we're actually doing some. There's a study that's underway right now with stormwater, and so we'll be bringing it back to you.
Okay, good deal. All right, anything else from council?
We need a line item for beaver dam removal.
Not yet, but
We'll study that.
Yeah. I almost had a joke, but I don't want to say it in public, right? Yeah, I know it. With that being said, if there's no other business by City Council, we'll go to 14A. The City of Statesboro Council retreat will be held on March 13th and 14th, beginning at 9 a.m. at the Marriott in Augusta, Georgia. The retreat will be facilitated by Michael Horhan from the Carl Vinson School of Government. That's 9 a.m. on March 13th through the 14th. We do have a work session that's going to be on the 17th of this month. And the things that we're going to discuss in that are alcohol ordinances in parks. So we invite everyone to come out for that. As far as other business for council, that's all that I have. And then we'll move down to agenda item 15, which is city manager's comment.
Mayor and members of council, I actually don't have any comment this morning.
Okay, all right, then we're moving along. So we'll move to agenda item 16, which is public comments. Are there any public comments? All right. Seeing that there are no public comments, we'll move down to agenda item 17, which is a consideration of a motion to enter into executive session to discuss personnel matters, real estate, and/or potential litigation in accordance with OCGA 50-14-13B. Is there a motion to go into executive session? Yeah, we need it. Yeah.
So move.
Is there a second?
Approve.
Second.
Yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right. We will now go into executive session.
Mr. Mayor, before the public leaves and doesn't come back, can we remind folks we have some openings on 3 boards, and you can go to the city website for more information. But if you're interested in helping keep Statesboro green or beautiful or litter picked up, we could use your help. Please look at the website and fill out an application and get it back into Ms. Harden by next Monday.
All right. Thank you.